The mysterious vanishing. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, one event sent shockwaves through the minds of every intelligent species. It was a mystery that no one could solve, a question that haunted the minds of explorers, historians, and leaders alike. Where did humanity go? It all began when a group of intergalactic explorers stumbled upon an ancient human artifact buried deep on a forgotten world. The artifact was old, so old, in fact, that no one could remember where it came from. The explorers were excited, for they had found evidence of a long-lost civilization. But what they didn't know was that this discovery would uncover a hidden truth that no one was ready to face. The galaxy was a place of power and mystery. Thousands of species lived and thrived, each with its own history, its own achievements. But there was one species that no one ever spoke of: humans. The galaxy's records were strangely empty when it came to Earth and its people. Ancient civilizations, alien empires, and forgotten wars were all preserved in the archives. But when it came to humanity, there was nothing. Not a single record, not even a mention. It was as though humanity had never existed at all. The explorers could not believe their eyes when they first examined the artifact. It was a small metal disc, almost perfectly round, with strange symbols etched into its surface. The symbols seemed to dance and shift as they observed it, almost as if it were alive. The explorers tried everything they could think of to decode the symbols, but nothing worked. It was as if the disc itself was designed to be understood by no one, except for those who had vanished. At first, the explorers thought it was a mistake. They believed the records must have been lost, or perhaps the galaxy's great archives had been corrupted. But as they dug deeper into the mystery, they realized something even more unsettling. It wasn't a mistake. Humanity had been deliberately erased from the records of the galaxy. No one knew why, and no one knew how. But the evidence was clear. As they continued their investigation, the explorers began to notice strange things. There were whispers in the corners of space, rumors passed in hushed voices. Older species, some that had witnessed the rise and fall of entire civilizations, grew uneasy whenever humanity was mentioned. Those who had lived for thousands of years would look away, their eyes filled with a mix of fear and sorrow. But whenever they were asked why humanity had been erased, they would not answer. Instead, they would simply change the subject. The explorers grew more determined. They knew there was a deeper truth waiting to be uncovered. What was so dangerous about humanity? Why were they erased from history? One day, the explorers discovered an old star map in the ruins of a forgotten world. The map was incomplete, but it showed a series of coordinates that didn't match anything in the galaxy. The map led to a distant star system, one that was not on any current star charts. It was a system surrounded by darkness, with no known planets or civilizations. Only one thing was clear: the map was pointing to something hidden, something that no one had been able to find for eons. The explorers decided to investigate. They set off on a journey to this forgotten system, their ship cutting through the empty space, the stars around them growing distant as they traveled further from the known galaxy. The closer they got to their destination, the more they felt an eerie silence hanging over them. It was as though the universe itself was holding its breath. When they arrived at the coordinates, they found nothing at first, just empty space. But as they scanned the area, they noticed a faint energy signature coming from a small, hidden moon orbiting a lifeless planet. It was the only thing in the system that seemed to be alive. The explorers were cautious as they approached, their ship slowing as they neared the moon's surface. On the moon, they found a structure, something that looked like an ancient outpost, long abandoned. The walls were cracked and worn, but the energy signature was still active. Inside the outpost, the explorers discovered more human artifacts, more strange symbols, and more evidence that humanity had once been here. But what they couldn't understand was why no one had found this place before. Why had it been hidden for so long? As they ventured deeper into the outpost, they discovered a massive vault buried beneath the surface. It was a locked chamber, its doors covered in the same shifting symbols they had seen on the artifact. The explorers were nervous but excited. They had found the key to the mystery, the last piece of the puzzle. But as they unlocked the vault, they were unprepared for what they found inside. There, in the center of the vault, lay the answer they had been searching for, a single human. But this human was not alive, not in the way they understood. The figure was preserved in a form unlike anything they had ever seen, perfectly frozen in time. The being's face was calm, almost peaceful, but there was a sadness in its eyes, a deep, ancient sadness. The explorers were left with more questions than answers. Who was this human? Why were they preserved in such a strange state? And most importantly, why had humanity been erased from history? As they left the vault and returned to their ship, they knew one thing for certain. Humanity's disappearance was no simple accident. Someone had gone to great lengths to erase every trace of them from the galaxy. But who? And why? The answers were out there, hidden in the shadows of space. And the explorers knew they would not stop until they found them. Because the truth about humanity's past was far darker, and far more important than they could ever imagine. The hidden truth. The discovery of the frozen human in the vault sent ripples of shock and curiosity through the group of explorers. They had found a clue, but it was a clue that only deepened the mystery. Who was this human? Why had they been preserved in such an eerie, unnatural way? And more importantly, why had humanity been erased from the records of the galaxy? Every answer seemed to lead to more questions. Back on their ship, the explorers analyzed the data they had gathered. The symbols etched on the artifact, and the walls of the vault seemed to match a series of ancient texts that existed in the most secretive corners of the galaxy. These texts spoke of a long-lost species, humans whose history had been deliberately erased. But there was nothing more. The record stopped abruptly, as though someone had intentionally severed the connection to their past. The more they looked into it, the more they discovered disturbing details. There were whispers about a hidden force, a faction that operated behind the scenes of galactic politics. This faction had the power to erase entire histories, to manipulate memories, and to rewrite the very foundation of the galaxy's records. But no one knew who they were. No one dared to speak their name. As the explorers continued their investigation, they came across a terrifying warning from a long-dead species. The warning was cryptic, but it made one thing clear. Humanity's disappearance was not a simple act of fate. It was a deliberate effort by a hidden power that feared what humanity could become. The explorers were stunned. It was as if they had stumbled upon a secret so dangerous that the galaxy had decided to bury it deep in the shadows. But why would anyone want to erase humanity? What had they done to deserve such a fate? One of the explorers, a young historian named Kira, began to piece together a theory. She believed that humanity had once played a critical role in the galaxy's history, a role so important that it posed a threat to the existing powers. But something had gone terribly wrong. In their pursuit of power, humanity had unlocked a force far beyond their control, something that frightened even the most advanced civilizations. Kira's theory was simple, yet terrifying. Humanity had been erased because they were too dangerous. The galaxy's leaders had decided that the only way to protect the universe was to make sure no one remembered them, that their existence was erased from history itself. Her theory sent a wave of unease through the group. They began to realize that the true mystery was not just why humanity had disappeared, but what they had done to cause such fear. Had humanity truly posed such a threat? And if so, what kind of power had they unleashed? As the days passed, the explorers uncovered more and more evidence of humanity's influence. Hidden files, encrypted messages, and classified documents all pointed to one thing. Humanity had once been on the verge of changing the galaxy forever, but the specifics of how and why they were erased remained elusive. Then, the explorers made a discovery that would change everything. While scanning the vault again for more clues, they found an old dusty console hidden beneath the floor. It was ancient, far older than the technology the explorers were used to, yet somehow still functional. Kira was the first to approach it. With trembling hands, she connected the console to their ship's systems, hoping it might hold more answers. The screen flickered to life, displaying strange data. The symbols began to shift again. But this time, something different happened. The console seemed to respond to Kira's presence, as if it recognized her. The symbols on the screen rearranged themselves into a sequence, revealing a message. The message was not just a warning. It was a confession. The message was from a human, one of the last, perhaps even the last of their kind. They spoke of a secret society, one that had grown within humanity's ranks. This society had discovered something, a force beyond time and space, something that could reshape the galaxy itself. But this discovery had come at a terrible cost. The society's leaders feared that humanity's unchecked power could destroy the balance of the galaxy. So, they'd made a choice. The choice was simple: erase humanity from history, wipe their existence from the records, make sure that no one could ever remember them. And so, they took action. They planted false records, erased databases, and manipulated history itself to ensure humanity's memory was erased. But the message didn't end there. The human continued, speaking of a great power locked away within humanity's DNA. This power had the potential to rival even the oldest and most advanced species. It was something that no one, no matter how powerful, could control. And that was why humanity had to be forgotten, to prevent the rise of a force that could change everything. The message ended with one final, haunting line: the key to humanity's return lies within the forgotten. But it is a key that will open doors no one is prepared to face. Kira felt a chill run down her spine. The words lingered in her mind. Humanity's erasure was not a punishment. It was a protection, a safeguard to prevent something terrible from happening. But now, the explorers had uncovered this truth, and they were about to uncover something even darker. As the explorers processed the message, they realized that they were not alone in their search. The hidden faction, the one that had erased humanity's history, was aware of their investigation, and they would do whatever it took to stop them from learning more. The race was on. The explorers had uncovered a truth that could destroy everything. But they had no idea just how dangerous this truth was, or who was watching them. The Guardians of Silence. The explorers sat in stunned silence as they processed the terrifying message. The truth they had uncovered was beyond anything they had imagined. Humanity had been erased from the galaxy's history because of the immense power they once wielded, a power so dangerous that even the oldest civilizations feared it. But now that they had begun to scratch the surface of this mystery, the real question was, who else knew? The message from the frozen human had hinted at a forgotten society, a secret group within humanity that had come to understand this power. But that wasn't all. The message also revealed something far darker. Someone had been watching them. The explorers knew they had to act fast. Kira, the historian, had pieced together most of the puzzle, but there were still gaps in their understanding. The human's message had mentioned a key that could unlock humanity's return. But what did this key truly mean? And why had it been hidden away? It was then that the ship's sensors detected something unusual, a faint but distinct energy signature coming from a nearby star system. It wasn't just the signature of a ship, it was something older, something far more ancient. Kira's heart raced. Could this be the key they had been searching for? Without wasting any time, the explorers set course for the source of the energy signature, a remote system located far outside any known trade routes. As they approached, the energy reading grew stronger, but there was something unsettling about it. It wasn't just a natural anomaly. It was almost as if it were being emitted intentionally. Someone, or something, was waiting for them. When they finally entered the system, they found an ancient structure orbiting one of the moons, a colossal station, hidden in the shadows of a dying planet. The station was like nothing the explorers had ever seen before. It was built with technology that appeared to be far more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever encountered. Yet it was abandoned, left to drift in space for millennia. The explorers cautiously approached, scanning the station for any signs of life. But the readings showed nothing. No life signs, no active communications, just an eerie silence. It was as if the station had been intentionally left in a state of suspended animation. As they docked, they prepared to board the station, fully aware that they were stepping into the unknown. The air was thick with tension. What had once been a place of great importance was now a silent monument to a forgotten age. Inside, the explorers found the remnants of an ancient civilization, one that had clearly been connected to humanity. The architecture was similar to what they had seen in the vault, with shifting symbols and strange markings that seemed to resonate with a hidden energy. The walls of the station were covered in layers of dust, untouched for centuries. But as the explorers made their way deeper into the heart of the station, they noticed something even more unsettling. The station was designed like a fortress. At the core of the station, they discovered a massive chamber, its walls lined with countless vaults. Each vault was protected by advanced security systems, the likes of which no one had ever seen. But what caught their attention was the vault in the center of the room. It was unlike the others. It was massive, with intricate designs etched into its surface, and it seemed to glow with a strange, otherworldly energy. As they approached, Kiera felt a chill run down her spine. She could sense that whatever was inside this vault was significant. It was more than just a relic from humanity's past. It was a key to understanding everything. But as they activated the vault's security system, they were met with an unexpected response. The doors slowly began to open, revealing a dark, hollow space within. And there, inside, was something that no one had expected. It was a human, alive, but not in the way anyone could have imagined. The figure was suspended in a cocoon of energy, its body wrapped in a protective shield that seemed to distort time itself. The human's face was obscured, but their presence filled the room with an overwhelming sense of power. The explorers stood in awe, unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. Kiera stepped forward cautiously. What is this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Before anyone could answer, the human figure began to stir. The cocoon of energy flickered, and the room seemed to vibrate with a strange, unnatural force. For the first time, the explorers realized that this was no ordinary human. This was the culmination of everything they had been searching for, the key that had been hidden for so long. And then, in a voice that seemed to echo through their minds, the human spoke. "You have come too far." The voice was soft, but its power was undeniable. It resonated deep within the explorers' minds, as if the words themselves had weight. "You have awoken what was meant to stay buried." Kiera felt her heart race. The human's words were not a warning. They were a command. Something about this figure was not just important. It was the reason humanity had been erased from history. But why had this person been hidden away? And what did they mean by awoken? Before anyone could respond, the cocoon of energy began to crack open. The explorers stepped back, unsure of what would happen next. The room was filled with an oppressive silence, broken only by the hum of the energy field. The human figure was beginning to emerge, but they were still shrouded in mystery. The explorers knew that whatever came next would change everything. They had uncovered the truth about humanity's past, but they had also uncovered something far more dangerous. The ancient being before them was a guardian, a protector of a secret that no one was meant to know. But the question remained, what secret had humanity been hiding, and why was it so dangerous? As the figure stepped into the light, the answers they sought seemed closer than ever, but so did the dangers. The galaxy had erased humanity for a reason, and now the explorers were standing on the edge of something far more powerful and terrifying than they had ever imagined. The Guardians of Silence had awoken, and they were not going to let the explorers uncover the truth without a fight. The awakening of power. The chamber fell into a tense silence as the cocoon of energy cracked open. The explorers, on edge and uncertain of what would happen next, watched in awe. The figure within the energy field was now slowly emerging, its presence both terrifying and captivating. Every second felt like an eternity as they waited for the mysterious being to reveal itself. The moment the last remnants of the cocoon vanished, the human figure stood in the center of the room. The explorers could now clearly see them, an ancient human, yet their appearance was nothing like any human they had ever encountered. The figure radiated an otherworldly energy, an almost divine aura that seemed to warp the very air around them. It wasn't just a human, it was something far more advanced, far more powerful. The figure's eyes glowed with a faint, almost hypnotic light, as if they were capable of seeing straight through the explorers' very souls. The room vibrated with a low hum, and every footstep they took seemed to echo through the chamber, amplified by the force surrounding the being. "You have come too far," the voice said again, this time with an unmistakable sense of authority. It was not a warning, nor was it a threat. It was simply a statement, as if the figure already knew everything the explorers had uncovered. Kiera felt the weight of those words settle in her chest. This was no ordinary human. This being held knowledge, power, that could change everything they had ever known about the galaxy. The being's gaze turned to Kiera, locking eyes with her. The explorer's eyes widened as Kiera felt her mind flooded with visions. Memories that weren't her own flashed before her eyes. Images of a powerful human race, a race that had once stood at the pinnacle of the galaxy. They had been builders, creators, innovators, until they had unlocked something so dangerous that the galaxy's leaders decided they must be erased. For a brief moment, Kiera felt the overwhelming weight of the truth. Humanity had not only been erased from history because of fear, they had been erased because they were capable of a power far beyond anything the galaxy's current leaders could control. But that was not all. The most terrifying truth was that the power humanity had unlocked was not just a weapon. It was a force of nature itself, a force that could reshape reality, and it was locked away inside the being before them. The humans spoke once more, their voice softer but still filled with the same power. "You seek answers, and now you have them. But not all truths are meant to be uncovered. Some are too dangerous to know. Some, once awakened, cannot be put back to sleep." Kiera took a step forward, her heart racing. What is this power? Why was humanity erased? What happened to them? The figure's eyes darkened as they raised a hand. The room seemed to pulse in response, the walls shifting slightly as if they too could feel the presence of the power within the human. "You have touched upon a force that was never meant to be unleashed," the figure explained, their voice carrying a deep sorrow. "Humanity was once on the brink of something unimaginable. They discovered a force, a source of pure energy, capable of altering the very fabric of the galaxy. But the price of its power was too great." Kiera felt a chill run through her as the figure's words sank in. "What do you mean, the price?" The human looked down for a moment, as if lost in thought. The power humanity unlocked was not just a tool to control, it was a force of creation and destruction. With it, a single human could bend reality itself. But no species, no matter how advanced, can control such a power without consequences. The leaders of the galaxy knew this. They feared humanity's potential. And so, they erased every trace of them, wiped them from history, to prevent the chaos that would have followed. Kiera's mind raced. The power to bend reality itself, a force that could reshape everything. Humanity had once had control over this, but it had come at a great cost. The cost of erasure, the cost of being forgotten. But why had this power been left behind? Why had this human been preserved? The human in front of them seemed to sense Kiera's thoughts. "I was the last," they said quietly, "the last of humanity. And I was kept here to guard the truth, to guard the key. The galaxy made a grave mistake when they erased us, but even they could not remove what was inside us, the power of creation, the power to return. The room felt colder as the beam's words echoed through the chamber. The key, Kira repeated, her voice trembling. What is this key? How can it bring humanity back? The humans stepped closer, their eyes never leaving Kira's. The key is within you. Within all of you, they said, gesturing toward the group. You have unlocked the truth, and now you must decide what to do with it. The galaxy may have erased humanity, but they cannot erase the force humanity has left behind. It is a force that has always existed, a force that can never be undone. The explorers exchanged uncertain glances. The humans' words were filled with mystery, and their presence was overwhelming. But there was no mistaking the power that lay before them. This was not a simple historical enigma. It was the beginning of something far greater, something that could change the fate of the galaxy forever. Kira's mind spun as she tried to piece everything together. The key was not just a physical object. It was a part of them, a part of their very being. The power humanity had unlocked was a living force, embedded within the galaxy itself. And now, it had awakened. The human's gaze softened. You will face challenges ahead. There are those who still seek to keep the truth buried, to ensure humanity's power remains forgotten. But you cannot hide from the past forever. The time has come for humanity to rise again. The explorers were silent, their minds reeling with the enormity of what they had just uncovered. The secrets of humanity's past were far from over. If anything, they had only just begun to understand the true scope of what was at stake. As the humans slowly stepped back, their figure becoming one with the shadows of the chamber, Kira knew that their journey had taken an irreversible turn. They had come for answers, but now they faced something far greater, the resurrection of humanity, a force that could either save or destroy the galaxy. The key had been awakened, and with it, the fate of the galaxy now rested in their hands. The hidden foe. Kira's heart raced as she stared at the human before her. The words they had spoken echoed in her mind, leaving her in a state of both awe and dread. The key had been awakened. Humanity's power, once forgotten, had returned. But with it came a new, terrifying responsibility. The chamber grew quiet, save for the soft hum of the ancient technology around them. The explorers exchanged uneasy glances, uncertain of what to do next. The human, this ancient being, had warned them, but now there was only one thing left to do: move forward. Yet, as Kira looked around at her team, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. The air seemed heavier, charged with an unseen presence. Something's not right, she whispered to herself, her instincts telling her that danger was closing in. Without warning, a low guttural growl reverberated through the walls of the chamber, making the hairs on the back of Kira's neck stand up. Her hand instinctively reached for her weapon. But before she could even react, the walls began to tremble. The ground beneath them shook violently, as if something was pushing its way through the very foundation of the ancient structure. What's happening? One of the explorers shouted, his voice filled with panic. Kira's eyes scanned the room, trying to make sense of the chaos around them. The human figure that had once stood before them was now gone, vanishing into the shadows from which it had emerged. But their words lingered in the air, and Kira couldn't ignore the sense of urgency that gripped her. The galaxy had erased humanity, but someone, was now making its presence known. A screech filled the air, followed by a terrifying silence. And then the ground cracked wide open. From the cracks in the earth emerged figures, shadowy, monstrous beings that seemed to materialize out of nowhere. Their eyes glowed with a blood-red light, and their elongated bodies seemed to shift and warp unnaturally. They moved swiftly, almost too fast for the human eye to follow, and their mere presence sent a chill down Kira's spine. The explorers drew their weapons, their hands trembling. These were no ordinary creatures. These beings were older, more primal, as if they had been lying in wait for centuries, hidden away beneath the surface of the galaxy. They'd been here the whole time, Kira muttered, a realization dawning on her. The ones who erased humanity. They've been watching. The shadowy figures began to advance, their glowing eyes locked onto the group of explorers. Kira felt an overwhelming sense of dread as the creatures closed in, their movements silent yet deliberate. These were no mere guardians of an ancient secret. They were the ones who had been responsible for humanity's erasure. They were the forgotten enemies, the ones who had kept humanity hidden away from the galaxy's memory. And now, they were here to ensure that humanity stayed forgotten. "We need to get out of here," Kira shouted to her team, her voice sharp with urgency. "Now." But the creatures were faster than they could react. One of them lunged at the nearest explorer, its clawed hands moving with blinding speed. The explorer barely had time to raise his weapon before the creature's claws slashed through his armor, sending him crashing to the ground. The group fired back in a panic, but the creature's unnatural speed made them almost impossible to hit. Kira barely had time to process the horror before her when one of the creatures turned its gaze directly on her. Its eyes were filled with a chilling intelligence, as if it recognized her, as if it knew exactly who she was. "You!" The creature growled in a voice that was almost human, yet twisted. "You are the one who will awaken them." The words sent a shockwave through Kira's body. Who would awaken who? She thought, her mind racing. But before she could react, the creature lunged toward her. Instinctively, Kira sidestepped, narrowly avoiding the creature's deadly claws. "We need to find a way to stop them," Kira shouted to the rest of the team, her voice filled with determination. "These creatures know what we're capable of. They can't be allowed to stop us now." But as she looked around, it became clear that they were not equipped to fight these monstrous beings. The explorers had stumbled upon something far beyond their understanding, a power so ancient and dangerous that even the galaxy's most powerful species had feared it. And yet they were still here, fighting not only for their survival, but for the very future of humanity. The ground continued to shake as more creatures emerged from the cracks, their eyes glowing with hunger. The explorers were cornered, and their chances of survival seemed slim. Kira's thoughts raced as she tried to find a way out, but the creatures closed in, their terrifying presence overwhelming her. Then, a sudden, piercing noise cut through the air. An unnatural sound that caused the creatures to recoil, their eyes flicking toward the source. Kira turned, her heart skipping a beat as she saw a figure standing in the distance, silhouetted by the eerie glow of the chamber. The figure was human, but not just any human. The ancient being, the one who had been guarding the truth, was standing tall, their glowing eyes locked onto the creatures with an unyielding intensity. They raised their hand, and the creatures froze, as if caught in a spell. The air around them seemed to warp as an overwhelming wave of energy rippled through the chamber. "Leave," the human figure commanded, their voice resonating with power. The creatures hesitated for a moment, their eyes flickering with uncertainty, but they slowly began to retreat, disappearing back into the cracks of the earth from which they had come. Kira's breath caught in her throat as she watched the scene unfold. The human had somehow gained control over the creatures, and with a simple command, they had retreated. But there was still so much Kira didn't understand. Who were these beings? Why had they waited so long to reveal themselves? And what did this all mean for humanity's future? As the chamber grew quiet once again, Kira turned to the human figure. "What are they?" she asked, her voice filled with a mix of awe and fear. "They are the ones who erased humanity," the human replied, their voice carrying the weight of centuries. "But they are not the true enemy. The true enemy is yet to come, and if humanity is to rise again, you must face them." Kira felt a cold shiver run down her spine as she realized the gravity of the situation. The battle for humanity's future was only just beginning. And in this dark, forgotten corner of the galaxy, the enemies that had once erased humanity were now preparing to rise again. And this time, they would not be easily stopped. The gathering storm. Kira's mind was a whirlwind of questions, but there was one thing she knew for sure. They were no longer alone in the galaxy. The ancient creatures had retreated for now, but their presence had left an unmistakable mark on the team. As the dust settled in the chamber, the team stood in stunned silence, trying to process the events that had just unfolded. The human figure that had saved them, who had revealed so much yet remained an enigma, was still there, their glowing eyes piercing through the darkness. Kira knew that their time was running out. The battle for humanity's future wasn't over, and every second they wasted was a step closer to the inevitable storm that was gathering. The human spoke again, their voice calm yet filled with an undeniable authority. The creatures you face were only a small part of a larger design. They are protectors, but they have been controlled, manipulated by forces far greater than them. Forces that have kept humanity in the shadows for far too long. Kira's heart raced. Controlled. She looked at her team, but no one seemed to have any answers. The tension in the air was palpable, as if the very walls of the ancient chamber were closing in on them. "What do you mean?" Kira asked, her voice filled with both curiosity and fear. "Who is controlling them?" The human's eyes flickered with an unreadable emotion before they spoke. "The ones who erased you. The ones who never wanted you to return." Kira took a step forward, her mind racing with the implications of those words. Humanity had been erased from history, forgotten, hidden from the galaxy's memory. But now, the galaxy was stirring, and with it came a sense of something more. A storm, brewing just beyond the horizon. The human raised their hand, and the chamber's walls seemed to shimmer with a new energy, as if responding to the very thought. "The ones who erased you are not some distant memory," the human continued. "They are still here. They are waiting, and they will not rest until humanity is nothing more than a forgotten tale." The words struck Kira like a physical blow. The weight of the truth was crushing. For centuries, the galaxy had forgotten humanity, but now, the ones who had done this were awakening, and when they did, they would stop at nothing to ensure that humanity remained hidden forever. Kira clenched her fists, a spark of defiance flaring within her. "We can't let them do this. We can't let humanity stay in the shadows any longer." The human turned their gaze on Kira, and for a moment, she felt as if the weight of the universe was pressing down on her. "You will need more than just courage, Kira," the human said quietly. "You will need to gather others. The storm is coming, and it will not spare those who are unprepared." Kira nodded, her resolve hardening. The task before them was insurmountable, but the fate of humanity rested in their hands. She couldn't afford to waste any more time. "What do we need to do?" she asked, her voice steady. The human smiled faintly, a glimmer of something ancient and knowing in their eyes. "You will find allies. Not all species in the galaxy will stand against you. Some will remember. Some will fight alongside you." The sound of distant rumblings echoed through the chamber, as if the very core of the galaxy itself was trembling. Kira could feel the storm approaching, its presence looming over them like an unstoppable force. "Time is running out," the human continued. "Gather what you can. Prepare. And when the time comes, you will face them. You will confront those who erased humanity, and you will decide if humanity will rise again." Kira felt the weight of those words settle into her chest. The galaxy had been silent, but it was waking up now. The enemies who had kept humanity hidden were coming, and they were stronger than anything they had faced before. The storm had already begun to gather, and the world as they knew it would soon change forever. Kira turned to her team, her mind made up. "We need to move quickly. We need to find the others, the ones who will stand with us." The team nodded in unison, a sense of purpose now burning in their hearts. They had no choice. The fight for humanity's survival had begun. And as Kira looked out into the unknown expanse of the galaxy, she knew one thing for certain. The storm was coming, and it would take everything they had to survive it. With a final glance at the human, Kira stepped forward, her team following close behind. The gathering storm had begun, and the future of humanity now rested in their hands. The galaxy was about to face its reckoning. The final confrontation. The journey had led them through uncharted space, to forgotten worlds and ancient battlefields, and now Kira stood on the precipice of humanity's fate. They had gathered allies from every corner of the galaxy, those who remembered the ancient truth, those who were willing to fight for humanity's place in the stars. But even with their strength and resolve, Kira knew that they were facing a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The storm that had been slowly building was now upon them, a darkness that stretched across the galaxy like a wave of destruction. The enemies who had erased humanity from history were no longer content to remain hidden in the shadows. They had awoken, and they were preparing to strike. Kira's eyes narrowed as she looked across the battlefield. The alien forces that had once tried to suppress humanity's potential now stood in defiance against them. Their numbers were vast, their technology advanced, but the one thing they could not anticipate was the human spirit. The same spirit that had survived centuries of erasure and had now come roaring back to reclaim its place. "We stand together, or we fall apart," Kira said to her team, her voice filled with a fierce determination. The moment of truth had arrived. The battle was intense, chaotic, a blur of flashing weapons, explosions, and the roar of engines. The skies above were dark with the ships of both sides, a deadly game of cat and mouse as each force tried to outmaneuver the other. Kira's heart raced in her chest, but there was no fear in her. She had already made peace with the fact that they had no choice but to fight. As her team engaged the enemy, Kira's mind flashed back to the words the ancient human figure had spoken. "You will need more than just courage. You will need to gather others." Now, those words felt like an oath, one that she had sworn to uphold. The others were here, other humans, other species, fighting not just for survival, but for the future of the galaxy itself. But despite the rallying cry, the battle was not going in their favor. The forces of those who had erased humanity were powerful, and their strategy was ruthless. With every victory, it seemed like they were being pushed back 2 steps. Kira's team fought valiantly, but the enemy had the upper hand, their knowledge of ancient technologies giving them a deadly advantage. Kira was in the thick of it, moving swiftly across the battlefield, her focus unwavering. She saw her allies fall, heard the cries of those who had fought beside her, but she could not let herself falter. Not now. The human figure, the one who had awakened the ancient power within humanity, had told her that the true enemy was not the creatures they had fought before, but a dark and powerful force that controlled everything from the shadows. Kira had to find this force. She had to confront them if humanity had any chance of surviving. Through the smoke and debris, Kira caught sight of something, a massive structure, hovering above the battlefield. The heart of the enemy's forces. She knew instantly that this was it. This was where the battle would be won or lost. She made her way toward it, her team covering her as they pushed forward. Every step felt like it could be her last, but there was no turning back. As they reached the structure, Kira could feel the presence of something ancient, something powerful emanating from within. The air crackled with energy as she stepped inside, her heart pounding in her chest. The inside was unlike anything Kira had ever seen. Strange symbols glowed along the walls, their meanings lost to time, but there was no mistaking the presence of power that hung in the air. And in the center of the room stood a figure, tall, imposing, with eyes that burned like the sun. "You are the one who has defied us," the figure spoke, its voice reverberating through the room like a thunderclap. Humanity should have stayed forgotten. Kira's grip tightened on her weapon. "We will not be erased again. Not now. Not ever." The figure's lips curled into a twisted smile. "You are too late. The storm has already begun. Humanity cannot rise again." "You're wrong," Kira said, her voice strong and steady. "It's not too late. Humanity has never been truly gone. We've been waiting. We've been fighting. And now we rise." With that, Kira launched herself at the figure, her weapon glowing with energy as it clashed against the figure's defenses. The battle raged around them, but in that moment, It felt as if time had slowed down. Every strike, every move, was a culmination of everything they had fought for, every life lost, every sacrifice made. The figure was powerful, but Kiara's resolve was even stronger. She had the fire of humanity within her, and with each blow, she pushed forward, unwilling to let this enemy win. The battle reached its crescendo as Kiara made her final move, her weapon crackling with energy as she pierced through the figure's defenses. The room shook as the dark force that had controlled everything began to unravel. The ancient power that had suppressed humanity for so long was beginning to fade. The figure let out a final, anguished scream before collapsing, their form disintegrating into nothingness. And with that, the storm began to dissipate. The darkness that had loomed over the galaxy for centuries was finally lifting, and the sky above began to clear. Kiara stood, panting, covered in the dust of the battle, but alive. Humanity had won, not just for themselves, but for every species that had been held down by the shadow of Erishur. The galaxy had been forever changed. The storm was over, and humanity had risen again.